all these the American dependence on this region is over. But the Americans would not like to see this region get out of hand or fall totally into someone else's capability. And given organizations like the IPAC or the American Israeli Political Action Committee in US, Israel is one country which wields immense influence within the United States. Please believe me, I worked with the IPAC in my days I was in Washington. Our links with Israel and IPAC go well before that period. And the Israelis did help us out in 1965. So something we should not forget. Though we choose to pretend that they did not do so. So I think you are into a very, very complex situation today. What is the situation really which is happening? As I said, there is a Sunni alliance led by Saudi Arabia, including the Gulf Arab states, and the Gulf Arab states have nuanced positions. Oman, for example, will not do everything Saudi Arabia wants. Qatar is a country getting too big for its boots, given the size of its population, though it has huge gas resources. The United Arab Emirates will generally go along with the Saudis. Remember, it was the Saudi Arabians and the United Arab Emirates which were the only country which recognized Taliban, not because they liked the faces of the Taliban or their beards, but because the Taliban was a force they could use to squeeze Iran. So you are into this situation where I said, I gave you the Iran Shia axis. For example, today if Bashar al-Assad gets weapons and fighters, they come from an air corridor from Iran, Iraq and into Syria. So, and this is the range of forces you have against range against the Saudi alliance. Now, why is America suddenly backed off on Syria? Why is America accepting a deal now from Iran, which it could have accepted in 2003? In 2003, Iran made the same offer, which was, we will, not build weapons. We'll put all our facilities under inspection, but you will not question our right to enrich. And the Iranians have a point there. Under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, they have every right to enrich, as much as Pakistan has or India has. And mind you, we are not signatories to the NPT, so it doesn't matter. But there are at least a dozen countries who enrich. So I think in terms of international legal order, they have a case. But the question is, why this change? In 2003, when the offer was made, they had 3,000 inverters. They could produce barely nothing, and the squeeze on the inverters and everything would have gone. Now they've got 19,000 inverters, some of them of superior quality, and building more. Why is it America is now willing to settle, which wasn't? And again, I come back to the basics. America has guarded its energy security. Latin America, including Venezuela, Mexico, and now even Argentina on shale gas, are going to become major energy suppliers. Canada to the north is a very convenient neighbor. So the US is very clear in its mind. It's going to work on economic integration with the big powers in Asia through the Pacific Ocean, and with the entire European Economic Union on its western shores. So, India, where do we come in? The answer is we don't, unless you grow at 10% an annum and become a much more viable force than you are at the present moment. So, the equations are interesting. Another interesting point, within the Mediterranean and Israel's shores, there are large resources of gas and some of oil. So the Mediterranean region is going to become a new factor in the energy equations as they emerge. And all this is happening, interestingly, when Turkey, ostensibly a secular country, but with an Islamist government, suddenly ditches Israel, with whom it had good relations, and joins this Islamic front. So there is this Sunni alliance starting with the Gulf countries and extending into Turkey. And I've spoken to you about the Shia-led Iranian grouping on the other. So in this journey, a lot is happening. You have the situation in Syria. Then you have the so-called Arab Spring, where every bleeding heart liberal in the United States felt, oh, the whole Arab world is going to become democratic, which is ridiculous. You can't. Democracy it grows. It's something you get in stages. It's values you believe in. You can't suddenly say, I'm going to hold an election. Though you hold the election, it will produce you a Morsi. And then everyone has to go into Parda. So what happened? The army stages a coup. And I'm glad that at least my view is that these regions being secular is in our interests. But what do we do? We did the practical thing. When Morsi wanted to come here, we welcomed him. Because it's not worthwhile for India to get involved in these internal rivalries. And these are going to grow. So Syria is in a horrible situation. I think a couple of million refugees already. There are around 100,000 casualties. But it is a bloodbath. And another point which has changed the American thing is, dynamics is, all right, you make common cause with Saudi Arabia and support Salafi-oriented groups. But what do you find? It is these very Salafi groups with linkages to Al-Qaeda who bump off your ambassador in Benghazi. It is these very groups who are now attacking the government you installed in Iraq. So there is a contradiction of interests between the United States on the one hand, Saudi Arabia and the Arabs and the Sunni world on the other. And Shia power, and since the Americans are more relaxed about their energy, they are in a much better way to go ahead with dealing with the situation as it emerges. I think as far as India is concerned, where do we fit in all this? It is crucial for us that those Arab Gulf states remain stable. The stakes are too high for us. This is number one. Number two, I think the ending of Iranian isolation will be something we should welcome. For the simple reason that in the few trips I've made to Iran, I've found that the middle class there has its own aspirations. They want to get back to being a normal country. I won't go into the details of this, but my understanding is you have an aspirational middle class in Iran, which is tired of being conservative. Rouhani merely reflects that sentiment of a middle class, tired of sanctions, tired of isolation from the world, just wanting to get out. How this will play out on Iranian national aspirations remains to be seen. The sanctions have worked, but then if you push a man too far, sanctions are a very nice tool, but beyond a point, when a man gets desperate, he doesn't care. But as long as you have this aspirational class, politically you can connect to, you're on the right side. Because I don't think anybody can stop Iran if it so chooses from working. And so what you can do is to build up a security environment under which they don't feel under siege, and you deal with that accordingly. I think as this process goes on, the Americans will and others will work very hard to get Iran to cool off their rhetoric on Israel. I mean, Ahmadinejad went completely haywire. I don't think you're going to find that sort of rhetoric. I mean, for an Iranian president to say that Israel should be wiped off the map, I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't think you're going to see that sort of rhetoric. It really depends on the internal equations of what works out. If this process is pushed in a direction where Iran realizes that whether it's Israel or India or the others, we're not interested in getting into their civilizational and their sectarian clashes. That is their business. But more absorbed as a part of the world, and really the only element for change, like in India, in Iran, is the middle class. They are genuinely outgoing. This is a civilization which is very old. I think they've been chafing under the sort of rule they've had. And I think Rouhani symbolizes that change. But it's a very delicate thing as to how this plays out. Lastly, I'll come to the situation in Afghanistan. Because that has a direct bearing. You don't mind another 5 minutes?
No, sir. Carry on till you attack.
The situation in Afghanistan. The Americans are packing bag and baggage to leave. And the interesting development now is that after their experiences with Al-Qaeda, the attack on them in Libya, the Americans realized that it is not the Iranians who are going to come and stage the next 9/11. That is going to come from these Salafi-oriented groups, whether they are based in Libya, whether they are based in Afghanistan or wherever. And the Americans realized one thing. They went in to clear out the swamp in Afghanistan. They have not succeeded. For a simple reason, that they refuse to accept that what we have been arguing for years, that there is a nexus between the Taliban, the ISI, and all these Salafi-oriented groups, whether it is the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, whether it is the Abu Sayyaf in Philippines, whether it is the Jamaat Islami in Bangladesh, whether it is the Harkatul Jihadul Islam in Bangladesh, whether it is the Lashkar-e-Taiba in Pakistan, the Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan, all these come under one umbrella, which is called which Bin Laden formed in February 1998 in Kandahar, called the International Islamic Front for Jihad against Jews and Crusaders, Israel and the United States. These were all groupings put together for that. Later on, Hafiz Muhammad Said made that as the International Islamic Front for Crusade against Jews, Hindus and Crusaders. So, this nexus, the Americans refused to acknowledge. They were in denial. Between 2000 and 2006, every time I spoke to an American and asked him, hey, how are you guys doing in Afghanistan? How are we doing? Great. Great. How many Taliban leaders have you caught or killed? 0. Where are they? Silence. They knew they were in Quetta. And they ignored it, and they're paying the price for it. But the problem is they leave. Ultimate price is going to be paid by us. Because right now, the one wing of the Taliban is turned against the Pakistani state, which is the Tehrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan, which operates from Pakistan soil. The other wing is collaborating with the ISI, the Haqqanis and so on. So they want to run with the Afghan Taliban hound, which is the Pakistani Taliban, while hunting with the Haqqani network on the other. So I think they are into a deep dilemma on this. And one of the reasons they've been behaving themselves well is, at least, and General Shekhar will bear this out, at least 3 of their divisions have been shifted from the Indian border to fight on their border with Afghanistan. And I think it will serve us well if they spend a couple of more years there. The Afghan situation, therefore, is going to be a source of concern. And the Americans just don't know what to do with Pakistan. They're too busy with the Devyani Cobra Garde to worry about what's going to happen somewhat later. So I think we need to look at it. We have had a policy thus far in Afghanistan of supporting the US presence there. What are we going to do there? Iran becomes crucial. I hope, and I'm saying this publicly, I don't mind, that the next government which comes is less scared of its own shadows than the present one. Because unless you back the government in Afghanistan with whatever they want, including weapons and military training, we are going to have a problem. And you're not going to have access there unless you go through Chabahar. And the only access to Afghanistan is the Chabahar port in Afghanistan. Iran. Pakistan does not give you access. Pakistan does not give you access to send wheat biscuits to Afghanistan. So strategically, Iran remains important to us. And as I said, I would sincerely hope they recognize and move ahead, and this needs to be signed. I believe ultimately that, like in the days of Cyrus the Great, the Israelis and the Iranians have the potential to live happily ever after. But certainly, much is going to depend on how you are able to bring Iranian behavior around to being a part of a larger constructive international community. India can contribute to that diplomatically, but the Iranians take their own decisions. They are quite impervious and can be even suicidal, because if you observe their behavior of self-sacrifice in the name of Imam Hussein, that is very much a trait which is a part of their post-Shiite incarnation. So you are into a complicated situation. We have opportunities. I think we should stick by our position with regard to the Palestinian process. For example, we deal with the Mahmoud Abbas and the other leadership based in who are now the recognized leadership. We keep our distance from the Hamas, though we have a mission there. So I think we should continue playing the role to push the Palestinians and the Israelis to reach a settlement. To be frank with you, and I've said this to all my Israeli friends, including the Israeli ambassador in Delhi, that it would help us all if they went a bit slow on settlements so that you can build a Palestinian consensus which helps it resolve. So the Indian role has to be confined to this. Otherwise, if the Catholic, Protestant 15th, 14th century rivalries is being played out in the Islamic world, it's their business. We have enough problems at home there to get ourselves involved there. मेरा कहना यह है कि अलाइन विद दिस कि जो हमारे पश्चिमी सीमाओं पर, खास तौर पर अफगानिस्तान पर, और जो खाड़ी के देश हैं जहाँ से हमारे जो तेल के आयात है, जहाँ हमारे 60 लाख लोग रहते हैं, जहाँ से $40 बिलियन हमें आते हैं, उनके साथ संबंध बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। और मेरा कहना ये भी है कि इन जो मतभेद अब शिया सुन्नी के बीच में निकल रहे हैं, तो ईरानियन और सऊदी के बीच में निकल रहे हैं, उससे हमें दूर रहना है। प्रयास हमारा यही रहना है कि जहाँ हमारे 60 लाख लोग वहाँ बसे हुए हैं, उनकी सुरक्षा पर। और मैं ये भी कहूँगा कि जो हमारी नौसेना है, उनके जो रिश्ते हैं इन देशों के साथ उन्हें हमें प्रोत्साहन देना पड़ेगा, चाहे वो ईरानी हो चाहे वो अरब हो, लेकिन इन समस्याओं से दूर रहें क्योंकि हमारे राष्ट्रीय हित का मकसद ये एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण अंग है और राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा का, क्योंकि शायद हमारे जो रिजर्व्स हैं तेल के 1 महीने का भी नहीं, तो निरंतर ही उनके साथ हमारे संबंध बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण हैं। और ये भी मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि अब अमेरिकन छोड़ जा रहे हैं अफगानिस्तान में, और हमें वहाँ अफगानिस्तान पहुँचने के लिए ईरान का सहयोग बहुत ही ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि एक ही बंदरगाह है चाबहार जहाँ से हम अपनी सामग्री ले जा सकते हैं, चाहे वो रक्षा सामग्री हो चाहे वो बिस्कुट हो। तो पेचीदगी है, लेकिन अगर हम इसे ज़रा बुद्धिमान तरीके से इन समस्याओं को सिमटे तो अच्छा रहेगा। और ख़ास तौर पर मेरा ख्याल ये है कि अफ़गानिस्तान को और जो मौजूदा